81,000 hours at work. Each of us, over the course of our lives, is going to spend about 81,000 hours at work. Such a huge number. So it's no surprise then that the choices that we make in terms of the type of people that we work with and the actual work that we do has a profound impact on the quality of our lives. And not just on the quality of our lives and us as individuals, but work is really important at a sort of broader, more societal level as well. Because, of all of the challenges that we need to meet, so whether we're talking about inventing a new medication to eliminate a disease, or whether we're talking about redesigning a supply chain to make it more sustainable, we need to have good people doing good work. So that's what I want to talk about today, is just how important work is. And, what you realize when you start looking at work is that something really strange is going on. In fact, what you realize is that there is an absolute epidemic of boredom at work. Of all of the surveys that have been done around the world with millions and millions of people, there's a consistent finding. And what that finding is that only 1 out of 5 people are actively engaged at work. So what that means is that they love what they do and that they put their all into it every single day. Only 1 out of 5 of us. A much larger percentage, 3 out of 5, are meh. I go to work every day. I get a paycheck. And I'm physically there for 8 or 9 hours per day, but my mind is somewhere else. Right? So 3 out of 5, 60% of us. And the other 1 out of 5, well, those are the people who, if they're sitting in another long, boring meeting, they're going to start creating mental lists of all the people they want to, right? So what this means is that we've got 4 out of 5 people who are either meh or So, and that's why I believe that the most wasted resource on earth is talent. And this isn't just bad for business. Of course, this is bad for business, but this is bad for people. Because of those 81,000 hours, what that means is that there's a huge chunk of time where people are either unfulfilled, or they're bored, or they're not happy, or they wake up in the morning and they have a sense of dread. So, we need to do something. And the first thing we need to do is to understand it. So why is this happening? Well, the headline is that the world over the last 100 years has changed dramatically. We all know that. But there are still some very key and very fundamental things about work that haven't changed at all. If I think back, 100 years to my grandfather, he was born in 1914. And his work life started when he was 15 years old. And so, what do you do as a 15-year-old? He was, had a natural knack for fixing things. So he was the guy you went to if you needed your car fixed or anything, right? And what he did every single day was he would go to work and he would punch in the morning and he would be fixing things. Then the lunch whistle would blow. He'd have his lunch. Lunch whistle would blow again. He'd go back to fixing things. He'd punch out at the end of the day. Then he'd come home and he'd kiss my granny. And that was what his life, that was what life was then. And he went to the same place and he, same time. And that was the routine that he followed. So what can be learned from this story? Well, the first thing is that being able to fix things, sadly, is not genetically passed down because I'm completely useless. But more importantly, number 2, what can be learned? Actually, the only thing I can fix is a drink. But number 2, more importantly, is that, many things have changed, but many things have not changed. So what has changed? Well, what has changed is that, in some countries, up to 40% of us are using our minds, not our hands. So millions upon millions of people are now knowledge workers, and that the value that they provide to the organization is in coming up with ideas. And that what we know is that ideas don't just happen between 9 and 5, and they can happen absolutely anywhere. And yet, What hasn't changed is that many of us in this room follow the same routine that my grandfather followed. And that we wake up, we go to the same place, we sit in the same desk, we use the same phone, we ride the same train every day with someone's smelly armpits beside us. And that's the life that we lead. And there's a great example of how time and place are still really important to us in the paper just 3 weeks ago. The major firm that all of us in this room would know had a sign on the front door of their office building. And so what the sign said was, you are expected to be at the office at 8:30 a.m. Not 9 a.m., not 9:30, not 10, nor 10:30. Signed, your longest serving partner. So a clear message saying that time is important to us, you better be here. What happened? Well, the next day, someone put a sign below it. And what that sign said was, just so you know, our workday ends at 5:30, not 6, not 9, not midnight, nor 2 a.m. Signed, your most loyal employee. A clear message back saying, time's not important anymore. And it touches upon something that we all know. That is a very rare sort of and blatant sort of outburst against it, but touches upon something that we all know, is that FaceTime does not lead to productivity. It leads to presenteeism, right? And what FaceTime leads to is Facebook, right? It's not productivity. It's about presenteeism, and it's about people keeping their chair warm. And that's about it. And a great example of that is when you look at the OECD data on Korea, what you find is that Koreans work some of the longest hours of any country in the world. In some cases, 400 more hours per year or 700 more hours per year. And then what you do is you look at what the output is per capita, and you control for everything. What you find is that the Korean output per capita is still lower. So it's not about quantity of hours, it's about quality of hours. And what I love is that the Korean governments have gotten involved and Korean companies have gotten involved to change this culture of FaceTime. Because they know it's not as effective as doing quality, good work. So, what's the essence of this issue? Why do we insist on FaceTime? Well, it's because we are control freaks. And we set high targets for ourselves. And we set big, ambitious goals. And our habit is to control as much as possible in order to get those results. So what we do in extreme cases even is we manage like heroin addicts trying to get our next fix of results. And we do silly and irrational things like put up signs because we think that's going to lead to more productivity. But we know that employees don't want that. And that's why we're having such record problems with disengagement, with staff turnover, and all of these different things. So that's the issue. So the question is, so how do we fix this then? How do we fix this issue? And the secret to doing great work lies in the sweet spot between control on one hand and chaos on the other hand. Let me repeat that. The secret to doing great work lies in the sweet spot between control on one hand and chaos on the other hand. We know that control is like a straitjacket, and that employees do not like it, and they want to be free. But our biggest fear is that if we give up control, then it's going to be chaos and no one's going to do anything, and we won't get the results that we want. So what I'm saying is that by giving up a little bit of control, we don't necessarily have to go to chaos. If we experiment and we embrace actually a little bit of chaos, then we can find that sweet spot that exists where great work can happen and where people wake up in the morning and are excited about work. A great example of this comes from the Netherlands with Microsoft. They've done a couple of interesting things. First thing that they did was they got rid of the office. And they said, you do not have to show up at a place every day. You can work wherever suits you best. In fact, what they did was they got rid of their office entirely, and they built a different space, I would say. And it's beautiful, and it's a place that people might actually want to come to, if they wanted to. Second thing that they did was no more 9 to 5. Instead, work whenever you want. 9 p.m., that's fine. So people now have the ability to work wherever they want and whenever they want. 2 amazing results. Been rated best company to work for 3 years in a row. Real estate costs down by 30%. Job satisfaction from a 5 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. And productivity up 25%. So people are happier, money is being saved, and more work is getting done. How is this a bad idea? People are happier, money's being saved, and more work is getting done. It's just fantastic. And I know some of you may be thinking at this point, Jared, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. But, there's always a but. I work in a place where, we're open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and customers come into our store and I need to be there and we need to staff that. Or, I work in a hotel and people are coming and we need to have people at the place. And I totally agree, a very valid point. And my answer to that is there are many currencies of control. So if time and place aren't an option, so if we can't say work wherever you want or whenever you want, how about how you work? That's also a form of control that we can give. And an example of this is the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. So as you can imagine, the wonderful ladies and gentlemen who work for Ritz-Carlton have to go to the hotel in order to do their work. But what Ritz-Carlton does is, in the first time that you start, someone who's your boss puts $2,000 US into your pocket. And they say, this is for you to go above and beyond and do extraordinary work. If someone comes in and they're having a bad day, go buy them flowers if you want, or go buy them a box of chocolates. You can use this in any way that you want. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. Just go out there and be the best that you can be. And here you go. Here's $2,000 US to do that. So it's a superb example of how there are multiple forms of control. And what are the results? Ritz-Carlton is in the top 25% of companies in the world in terms of employee engagement. And not only that, but their staff turnover is about 20%, where the industry average for that type of role would be well over 100%. So what that means is that people love it too. That I can do something good for someone else at work. That feels good to me. Because all of us, we come into this world with a desire to be the best that we can be until someone says that we can't. And then that turns that switch off. So, this is why I think that we are sitting on a winning lottery ticket, that there is an abundance of talent that can solve any problem in the world. If we can just update our archaic way of working, then so many good things can happen. And yes, this will be great for business, but more importantly, this will be great for people, because what it means is that of those 81,000 hours that we're going to spend working, is that there's going to be more people engaged, more people excited, more people happy. And that's meaningful, and that matters. So we need to change the way that we work. So my closing question and my thought for you to take away and to act upon is, what is one change that you can make to do more great work? Thank you.